Some people don't break down loudly. They slowly become emotionally tired in ways nobody notices. You still wake up, still answer texts, still go to work, still laugh at things sometimes. But somewhere underneath all of that, there's this quiet feeling that life keeps taking more than it gives. And the strange part is, you probably feel guilty for even thinking that. Because technically, other people have it worse. So you minimize your own exhaustion. You call it stress, a rough phase, bad timing. But deep down, there's another feeling hiding underneath it. Resentment. Not dramatic resentment, quiet resentment. The kind that shows up at night when you're staring at the ceiling, replaying everything that didn't work out. The opportunities you never got. The support you needed but didn't receive. The timing that always seemed wrong. The people who hurt you and somehow moved on unaffected. Meanwhile, you're still carrying conversations from 3 years ago in your nervous system like they happened yesterday. And this is where it gets complicated. Because part of you wants to stay hopeful, but another part is exhausted from pretending things feel fair. You scroll online watching people your age buying houses, building businesses, falling in love, looking confident, traveling somewhere beautiful on a random Tuesday afternoon, while you're trying to convince yourself replying to emails counts as emotional stability. And maybe it does for now. But here's the uncomfortable part nobody says out loud. Life isn't equally heavy for everyone. Some people start with support. Others start with survival mode. Some people were taught confidence. Others were taught fear. Some people grew up feeling emotionally safe. Others learned to constantly scan rooms, overthink texts, apologize too much, and expect disappointment before anything even happens. That changes a person, more than people realize. And this is where things quietly begin falling apart. Because eventually you stop asking, "What do I want?" and start asking, "What's the point?" That shift is dangerous, not because it destroys your life instantly, because it slowly disconnects you from yourself. You stop trying fully, stop trusting yourself fully, stop believing effort matters fully. You still function, but emotionally, you begin withdrawing from your own future. That's the hidden damage unfairness creates. Not sadness, helplessness. Wait until you realize why this matters so much. Humans can survive difficult situations surprisingly well, but struggling without meaning? That breaks people internally. When pain feels random, your brain starts resisting effort altogether. Because effort without emotional reward feels unsafe. So you procrastinate more, avoid harder conversations, stay distracted longer, numb yourself with scrolling, entertainment, food, overthinking, anything that gives temporary relief. Not because you're lazy, because your nervous system is tired of carrying disappointment. And honestly, that realization changes how you see yourself. Because maybe your problem was never lack of discipline. Maybe you've been emotionally exhausted for years pretending you were fine. That hits harder than most people expect, especially high-functioning people, the ones who look okay externally while silently unraveling internally. You know the type. Maybe you are the type. You complete responsibilities while feeling emotionally detached from your own life. You tell people, "I'm good," automatically. You keep delaying rest because your brain no longer knows how to relax without guilt. Even your free time feels tense. And the strange part is, you adapted to this so gradually you barely noticed it happening. That's what emotional survival mode does. It becomes your normal. At first, unfair experiences create pain. Then eventually, they create identity. You stop seeing life as something you participate in. You start seeing it as something you endure. That's when the real problem begins. Because now even positive opportunities feel suspicious. Compliments feel temporary. Hope feels risky. Trust feels dangerous. Your brain starts protecting you from disappointment before disappointment even happens. Which sounds smart, until you realize it also blocks joy, connection, risk, confidence, and growth. Protection slowly becomes isolation, and isolation changes the way you think. You become hyper-aware of everything missing from your life. what other people have, what you lost, who left, how far behind you feel. And social media quietly intensifies all of it. And once you understand that, something inside you starts softening. Not because life suddenly becomes easier, but because you stop expecting fairness to be the thing that finally gives you peace. That expectation quietly destroys people. They spend years emotionally negotiating with reality. If I was good enough, this wouldn't have happened. If life was fair, they wouldn't have left. If I worked harder, maybe people would have treated me differently. But life doesn't always reward effort immediately. People don't always apologize. Closure doesn't always arrive neatly. And honestly, that's painful to accept. Because part of you still wants the universe to explain itself. You want a reason, a clean answer, something that makes all the confusion feel justified. But sometimes life moves forward without explaining why certain things happen to you. That silence can either harden you or deepen you. And this is where the real shift begins. You stop asking, why was this unfair? And slowly begin asking, who am I becoming because of it? That question changes everything. Because now your pain stops being the center of your identity. It becomes part of your story, not the entire story. And strangely enough, that creates emotional freedom. Not instant happiness, freedom. The freedom to stop reliving the same emotional wound every day. The freedom to stop measuring your worth against people who had different circumstances. The freedom to stop turning every setback into proof that you're broken. Because here's the truth most people avoid. Unfair experiences can either make you more conscious or more bitter. Both reactions feel justified initially, but only one builds a future. Bitterness feels protective. It gives your pain a target, a narrative, someone to blame. But eventually, bitterness turns into emotional paralysis. You stop trusting people, stop risking anything meaningful, stop believing change is possible, and slowly, your life becomes smaller. That's the hidden danger. Not pain itself, the identity you build around pain. Wait until you realize how subtle this becomes. You can look functional while emotionally living inside old disappointments. You smile during conversations while silently replaying old failures. You achieve things while still feeling emotionally behind. You receive love while struggling to believe you deserve it. Old emotional wounds distort present reality quietly. That's why healing isn't about pretending bad things never affected you. It's about refusing to let them permanently define your relationship with yourself. And honestly, that takes courage people rarely talk about. Because staying wounded can become familiar. Healing requires uncertainty. It asks you to reconnect with parts of yourself you stopped trusting years ago. Hope, effort, vulnerability, possibility. That's terrifying after disappointment, especially when life already humbled you repeatedly. But here's what nobody tells you. Some of the strongest people you admire were built through seasons where nothing felt fair. Not because suffering magically improves people, but because eventually they stopped asking life for permission to move forward. That's the difference. They stopped waiting for emotional certainty before rebuilding themselves. And this changes the way you see resilience entirely. Resilience isn't pretending pain doesn't exist. It's carrying pain without letting it become your personality. That's harder and far more honest. Because maybe you were never supposed to become emotionless. Maybe you were supposed to become aware. Aware of your patterns, your coping mechanisms, your fear, your self-protection, your tendency to expect abandonment before connection even begins. Awareness changes things quietly. You start noticing when your brain catastrophizes, when you assume rejection too quickly, when you emotionally shut down instead of communicating honestly. And little by little, you stop treating yourself like someone permanently damaged. You start treating yourself like someone recovering. There's a difference. A damaged person sees no future. A recovering person still believes change is possible, even if slowly, even if imperfectly. And maybe that's the part your mind needed to hear most. You are not weak for struggling with unfair experiences. You are human. The real danger was never your pain. It was the belief that pain permanently disqualified you from peace, confidence, connection, or meaning. That belief ruins more lives than suffering itself. Because eventually, people stop trying emotionally, not outwardly, internally. And once that happens, life starts feeling emotionally distant no matter what you achieve. But this is where it changes. The moment you stop building your identity around what hurt you, you slowly begin reconnecting with who you are underneath survival mode. That process is quiet, sometimes painfully slow, but it's real. And one day you notice something strange. The things that once shattered you emotionally no longer control the way you see yourself. That's healing. Not perfection, not endless happiness. Emotional freedom. And if this felt a little too real, maybe that's the part you shouldn't ignore.